I was half awake in my chair, nursing the last inch of a drink that had lost its warmth, when I felt her small hand tug at my sleeve. "Daddy?" she whispered. Her voice was fragile, like something that shouldn't be said out loud. She climbed onto my lap, still in her unicorn pajamas, her hair tangled, her eyes glassy. I smiled without thinking. The reflex of a man who used to believe love could fix anything. But then she said it. "Mommy has a lover, and they're going to take all your money." I didn't react at first. The words didn't make sense. They just floated there, absurd, heavy, impossible. I even laughed, soft and confused. "What do you mean, sweetheart? Did you dream that?" But she shook her head. Hard. Her lower lip trembled. I heard them. Mommy was on the phone. She said he makes her feel alive again. Alive again. That phrase, it stuck. Like a blade under the skin. I tried to stay calm. I brushed her hair back, but my hand was shaking. "Did Mommy say who?" She frowned, thinking. "She called him Ethan." Ethan. The name dropped like a stone into silence. I don't remember what I said next. Something about it being late, about bad dreams. I told her she was safe, that everything was fine. Lies are easy when you're trying to protect innocence. Even easier when you're trying to protect yourself. But the moment she fell asleep against my chest, I felt it. The shift, the weight in the air, like the house itself knew what she'd said was true. From the hallway, the faint glow of the nightlight painted shadows that looked like cracks. The sound of the clock ticked too loud. Upstairs, I heard the faint shuffle of footsteps. Hers, my wife's. I listened, every muscle tight. The whisper of her voice on the phone. The way her tone changed, softened, became someone else's. I didn't move, didn't breathe. I just listened, and in that moment, I understood something terrible. That betrayal doesn't start with touch. It starts with tone. By the time the light upstairs went out, the drink in my glass had gone still. I sat there with my daughter sleeping in my arms, watching the window's reflection of a man who suddenly didn't recognize himself. How long had this been happening? How many dinners had she smiled through? How many times had she said, "I love you," with someone else's taste still on her lips? I looked down at my daughter, the one pure thing left in the room, and I made myself a promise, silent and steady. I will find out who he is. And when I do, I didn't finish the thought. Some truths don't need to be said aloud. The clock struck midnight. The house sighed. My world, the one I'd built brick by brick with trust, cracked wide open. And somewhere upstairs, in our marriage bed, she was dreaming of someone else. Pauses. Voice drops lower. Funny thing about love, it's quiet when it dies. You don't hear it scream. You just feel the air grow colder. The next morning, the world pretended nothing had changed. Sunlight spilled across the kitchen floor, golden and false. The smell of coffee filled the air, her favorite hazelnut blend, and the sound of a pan sizzling almost fooled me into believing it was just another Sunday. Almost. She stood there, humming. Same robe. Same gentle hum she used to sing when we first moved in. But now it sounded rehearsed, like an actor replaying a role she no longer believed in. "Morning," she said, smiling. Her eyes met mine, and for a second, I almost told her everything. That I knew, that our daughter's whisper had ripped through me like fire through paper. But I didn't. I smiled back instead. "Morning." The word tasted bitter. I watched her move around the kitchen, the sway of her hair, the careful way she avoided looking directly at me. I used to think her silence meant comfort. Now, it sounded like guilt. When she set my plate down, I noticed her hands tremble slightly. "You were up late again?" she asked, too casually. I nodded. Couldn't sleep. Neither could she, though for very different reasons. Our daughter came running in. dragging her stuffed rabbit. She climbed onto a chair beside me, yawning. I kissed her head, felt her small heartbeat against mine. My wife smiled at the sight, but I saw something flicker behind her eyes. Fear, maybe, or guilt, wearing a disguise. "Did you have sweet dreams?" she asked our daughter. The little one hesitated, then nodded too quickly. "Uh-huh," I caught her eye, just for a moment. That look, quiet, knowing, told me she remembered everything. I reached for my coffee, hands steady now. Inside, though, I was already building walls. Quiet ones, thought by thought, suspicion by suspicion. Later that day, I stood in the doorway of her home office. She was on her laptop, typing, too fast, too focused. When she noticed me, she smiled, startled, guilty. "Oh, I didn't hear you come in." "Working?" I asked. "Just emails." But her screen wasn't on her inbox. It was a video call, minimized too late. For a split second, I saw the reflection in her glasses. A man's silhouette, blurred, leaning closer to the camera. "Who's that?" I asked, voice quiet. She blinked. "What?" "That." I pointed at the faint light still glowing in the corner of her screen. "Oh," she laughed nervously. "Just a client. You're being paranoid." Paranoid. That's the word they use when they're lying. I smiled. Slow. Deliberate. Maybe I am. And I walked away. But I heard her exhale. That shaky kind of relief that only comes from narrowly escaping exposure. That night, I sat by the window after she went to bed. The moonlight hit the wedding photo on the mantel, her smile frozen forever beside mine. I traced the frame with my thumb, feeling every scratch, every dent, every year. 7 years of love, or what I thought was love. I thought of that whisper again. My daughter's trembling voice, those words she shouldn't have had to say. "Mommy has a lover." I closed my eyes. The air smelled faintly of her perfume drifting from the bedroom. Jasmine and deceit. Somewhere upstairs, she turned in her sleep, sighing softly. I used to find that sound comforting. Now, it just reminded me how easy it was for her to rest, while I lay awake next to the ruins of our life. I poured myself another drink. The glass clinked too loud against the table. The sound echoed through the house like a confession. When I looked at my reflection in the dark window, I barely recognized the man staring back. His eyes were cold, calculating, quietly dangerous. And that's when I realized something simple, something pure. I didn't want to confront her. Not yet. I wanted to know. Truth, after all, is sharper than any weapon. And when I find it, she'll wish she'd never whispered his name. The following days felt like walking barefoot through glass. Everything looked normal from the outside. The coffee mugs in their place, the same playlist humming through the speakers, her soft laughter drifting from the living room. But beneath it all, there was blood in the water. I started watching her differently. Not like a husband, like a detective with everything to lose. Her phone, once always in the open, now lived in her pocket. She'd step outside to take calls, always work, always urgent. Sometimes she'd laugh, softly, nervously, the kind of laugh I used to earn. That's how betrayal starts, doesn't it? Not with cruelty, with familiarity repurposed. At night, when she fell asleep, I'd lie there listening to the rhythm of her breathing, pretending it was peace. But peace doesn't hum like guilt. One night, around 1 a.m., I heard the faintest buzz. Her phone lighting up on the nightstand. I turned my head slightly, pretending to shift in my sleep. The name on the screen wasn't saved, just a number. But the preview message burned itself into me. "Miss you. Can't wait to see you again." That was all it took. A dozen words to unravel a decade of trust. I stared at her face, half lit by the glow of the phone. Her lips parted in sleep, innocent, soft. And yet, everything about her felt foreign. My chest hurt, but not from heartbreak. It was something colder, heavier, purposeful. I didn't wake her. I didn't throw the phone. I didn't scream. I just memorized the number. In the morning, she made pancakes. Blueberry, my favorite. I could barely swallow them. She smiled. "You're quiet today," I smiled back. "Just tired." She leaned over and kissed my cheek, the same lips that whispered to someone else in the dark. My daughter giggled at the table, syrup on her fingers, oblivious to the storm sitting across from her. And for a moment, I envied her innocence, the way she could laugh without hearing the lies echoing underneath it. Later that afternoon, I sat in my car outside her office building, hands gripping the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. The number I memorized glowed on my screen, taunting me. I typed it into a search app. When the name appeared, my heart didn't race. It slowed. Ethan. Of course. It's always someone you've already let inside. My so-called friend? The one who came to our daughter's birthday? The one who toasted to family at our anniversary dinner? I laughed, quiet and bitter. The sound didn't even sound human. Inside the car, I could smell her perfume on the passenger seat, faint, lingering from yesterday. My throat tightened. She had once sat there, holding my hand, promising forever. Now, that same scent made me sick. I didn't go inside the building. I just watched. And there he was, Ethan, walking out of the side door, phone pressed to his ear, smiling. That same confident smile he used to flash at me over drinks. He looked like a man who'd won something. And maybe he had. He stopped by a black sedan. My wife stepped out. My world stopped breathing. She didn't see me. Of course not. They stood close, too close, her hand brushing his sleeve. That single touch was enough to strip years of illusion away. I remember every detail. The way she looked over her shoulder, cautious. The way he leaned in, whispering something that made her laugh. That same nervous laugh I used to love. I should have stormed out of the car. I should have shouted her name. But instead, I sat there, utterly still, feeling the world inside me collapse in perfect silence. Because in that silence, I found clarity. Love was blind. But betrayal? It was blinding. When she finally drove off, I stayed there for a long time, staring at the empty spot where she had been, the ghost of her smile still hovering in the air. That night, I didn't speak to her. I didn't mention Ethan. I tucked my daughter into bed, kissed her forehead, and whispered, "You did the right thing, sweetheart." She looked up at me, sleepy-eyed. "Did I make Mommy sad?" I shook my head. "No, you just told the truth." Her little hand touched my cheek, and in that small, innocent gesture, I felt something dangerous take root. Not rage, but resolve. When I left her room, I stood in the hallway, listening to the faint hum of my wife's voice downstairs. She was laughing again. On the phone, no doubt. And I realized something I'll never forget. The hardest part of betrayal isn't the lie. It's pretending you don't know the truth. So I'll play the fool a little longer. Because when the time comes, they'll both learn what it feels like to whisper something you can't ever take back. I became a ghost in my own home. Not dead, not gone, just invisible in all the ways that matter. I moved through the rooms I once built with love, and now every step felt like trespassing. Her perfume still lingered in the hall, that soft jasmine scent I used to crave, but now it smelled like deceit. Sweet, suffocating, clinging to everything she touched. She laughed more these days, not with me, but near me, like an echo meant to remind me of what I'd lost. Her phone was always face down, screen dark, like a secret waiting to be protected. The sound of her notifications was silence itself, muted, hidden, deliberate. I started noticing things that normal people don't. The way she hesitated before saying where she'd been. The pause, barely a second long, before her eyes met mine. The smudge of lipstick on a mug that I didn't drink from. She thought I didn't see it. But I did. God, I saw everything. At night, I watched her from the shadows of our bedroom, her silhouette glowing in the dim light of her phone as she texted someone who wasn't me, the faint smile on her lips, that soft exhale through her nose. She used to do that when I told her I loved her. Now it belonged to someone else. I tell you this not to make you pity me. No, pity is useless. I want you to understand what betrayal sounds like in real life. It's not shouting. It's not plates breaking or doors slamming. It's silence. Small, precise, weaponized silence. I became methodical, calculated. I started to track her without even realizing it. What time she showered, how long she spent at work, which days she wore her red heels, the ones she claimed hurt her feet. She wore them again. For him? One evening she told me she had a late meeting. I remember the way she said it. Casual, practiced, almost bored. She didn't even look up from her laptop. I nodded, pretending not to care, my voice steady, my heartbeat anything but. The moment she left, I followed. The sky was low and bruised, heavy with rain. Her taillights glowed in the distance. 2 red dots leading me straight into the truth. I kept my headlights dim, far enough behind that I looked like nothing more than another car in the stream of lies she drove through every day. She stopped at a hotel downtown. Not fancy, not cheap. The kind of place where no one asks questions. The kind of place that smells like perfume and secrets. I parked across the street. The rain had started by then, soft at first, then relentless, streaking across the windshield until the world outside became a blur of motion and color. She stepped out of her car, pulling her coat tight around her. She looked nervous, then smiled. The same smile that once belonged to me, and then he appeared. Ethan. He walked up to her, umbrella in hand. She didn't even hesitate. Her hand slipped into his like it had been there all along. That one small touch burned through me more than any confession could. They laughed. She tilted her head in that familiar way, brushing her hair behind her ear. The same gesture she used to do on our first dates. I watched them walk through the glass doors together, disappearing into the soft gold light of the lobby. My breath fogged the inside of the car window. My fingers were clenched so tightly around the steering wheel that my nails dug into the leather. I couldn't feel the pain, only the rhythm of my heartbeat. Heavy, uneven, animal. I didn't move, didn't chase, didn't scream. I just watched until they were gone, until the rain swallowed the sound of their laughter. It wasn't cinematic, not like in the movies. No storming into the lobby, no dramatic confrontation. Just the quiet kind of pain, the kind that builds a home inside your chest and refuses to leave. When she came back home that night, I was still awake, sitting on the couch, lights off, pretending to be half asleep. She walked past me, heels clicking like metronomes for lies. She smelled faintly of hotel soap. She didn't say a word. Neither did I. But as she disappeared upstairs, I whispered to myself, just loud enough for the dark to hear, she took my love for granted. Now I'll take her lies apart. The words felt heavy, final. Not rage, not even grief, just purpose. And for the first time since that whisper, I didn't feel broken. I felt ready. The next morning she hummed while making breakfast. Pancakes, blueberries, her favorite, not mine. I sat at the table, watching her move around the kitchen like nothing had changed. Her hair still damp from her shower, her robe loosely tied, too casual, too soft. She looked innocent, but I had seen the truth. Once you've seen it, you can't unsee it. She smiled at me, said, "You're quiet today." I smiled back. Just tired. That was the first lie I told her. The first of many I'd let drip from my tongue like slow poison. Inside, I was dissecting every second. The way she reached for the butter. The way her hands trembled ever so slightly when I leaned in to kiss her cheek. Guilt has a smell. Faint, metallic, like blood after a storm. I wondered if she could feel it too. That invisible shift. The space between us thickening. She wasn't the only one who could keep secrets anymore. All day, I played my role. The devoted husband. The calm father. I took our daughter to school, fixed the leaky faucet, laughed at a joke I didn't hear. But inside, I was rewinding everything. The hotel, the hand-holding, the smile. I was building a map of her betrayal. Every pattern told a story. Tuesday. Working late. Friday. Dinner with the girls. Sunday. Extra perfume. It wasn't random. It was routine. A schedule of deceit. Perfectly rehearsed. And I was done being the audience. That night, I waited for her to fall asleep. The house was silent except for the faint hum of the refrigerator and her soft breathing beside me. I stared at the ceiling, watching the light from the street lamps crawl across the plaster like restless ghosts. I reached for her phone. Slowly. Carefully. My pulse pounded so loud I swore she'd hear it. Her screen lit up in my hand. Passcode locked, of course. But even locked, it spoke. Notifications, names, times. One, in particular, stood out. E. I didn't need more than that. For the next few days, I became what she made me. A shadow stitched to her life. I checked her car mileage, took photos of receipts she left in her purse, memorized every excuse she gave. I even found a second SIM card tucked inside her makeup drawer, hidden beneath old receipts. She wasn't careless. She was experienced. That realization hurt worse than the affair itself. She had done this before. It's strange how betrayal doesn't feel like fire. It feels like ice, numb, quiet, spreading slowly until you can't remember what warmth ever felt like. Our daughter, Lily, noticed first. "Daddy, why don't you talk to Mommy anymore?" Her voice cut deeper than any truth could. I looked at her, tried to smile, but my throat felt tight. "Sometimes grown-ups just get busy, sweetheart." She nodded like she understood. Kids always understand more than they should. That night, I followed her again. Not to the hotel this time. She was smarter now. She met him at a small park near the river, the kind of place no one visits after dark. I parked under a broken streetlight, engine off. She laughed. He touched her face. I watched. A part of me wanted to open the door, to end it right there. Not with violence, but truth. To watch her face crumble when I said, "I know." But I didn't. Not yet, because I realized something in that moment. This wasn't about catching her. It was about understanding why. Why someone who once promised forever could look into your eyes and still lie. The wind picked up. The river shimmered beneath the faint glow of the moon. She leaned into him and whispered something that made him smile. And that's when it happened. She took off her wedding ring. I just slipped it off, casual, careless, and tucked it into her coat pocket before she kissed him. Like it meant nothing. Like I meant nothing. I didn't feel anger then. I felt clarity. Cold, sharp, merciless clarity. When she drove home, I didn't follow. I stayed there, watching the river swallow the reflection of the bridge lights. That night, I didn't sleep, didn't move. I just sat in the dark, tracing the shape of her ring on my own finger. It wasn't gold anymore. It felt like steel. By morning, I had made up my mind. If she wanted to build her life on lies, I'd let her, brick by brick. But when the walls finally caved in, I'd be standing there, waiting. And she'd never see it coming. Revenge doesn't begin with rage, I whisper. It begins with patience. You ever notice how silence can start to sound like truth when you've been lied to long enough? That's what our house became. A theater of silence. No shouting, no confessions, just quiet performance. Every word rehearsed. Every glance loaded. I'd sit across from her at dinner, watch her slice her food like nothing in the world was wrong. She'd ask about work, about Lily's grades, about the mortgage, but never about us. Never about the distance crawling between our chairs. One night, Lily drew a family picture. Stick figures, smiling faces, but between her mom and me, she drew a thick black line. I stared at it longer than I should have. It felt like prophecy. That's when I started recording. Small things at first. Voice memos, screenshots, call logs. I wasn't collecting evidence for the police. No, this was something else. This was about control. If she could build a world without me, I'd build one without her. But I'd make mine stronger, louder, impossible to ignore. I started keeping a journal too, not for reflection, for precision. Dates, times, names. The smell of her perfume after late meetings. The lies she didn't even bother to disguise anymore. Writing it down made it real, made me remember I wasn't crazy. Sometimes, I'd walk past our wedding photo on the hallway wall, the one where we're laughing, holding hands, drenched in sunlight. I'd stare at it until my reflection replaced hers. I'd whisper, "You made me this." One night I came home early. Her car was in the driveway. The lights upstairs, off. But the glow from her phone illuminated the room in a sickly blue. I stood at the door, listening. Soft laughter. Not hers. His. A man's voice, low, careless. I didn't open the door right away. I wanted to feel it. The sting, the ache, the final proof. My fingers trembled on the doorknob, my pulse hammering in my throat. When I stepped inside, the world slowed. She was on the bed. Not with him, not physically. It was a video call. Her hair was down, her eyes bright in a way I hadn't seen in months. The kind of brightness that used to be mine. She didn't see me at first. I watched her for exactly 7 seconds. That's how long it took to destroy 14 years of marriage. Then I spoke. "Who's he?" Her body froze. The phone slipped from her hand, hit the floor with a sharp crack. I didn't yell, didn't curse. I just looked at her. She opened her mouth, stuttered something. A name, a plea, maybe an excuse. I didn't hear it. My blood was too loud. Lily's footsteps echoed from the hallway. "Mom? Dad?" I turned, forced a smile. "Go back to bed, sweetheart." When she was gone, the silence returned, thicker this time. She tried to reach for me. I stepped back. "Don't," I said quietly. "You've touched enough." For a long moment, we just stood there, breathing in the dark. Two strangers surrounded by memories that no longer belonged to us. Then she whispered, "It's not what you think." I laughed. God, I laughed. A low, broken sound that scared even me. "Then what is it, huh? Business meeting? Charity call? New kind of therapy?" She cried. Not the loud kind, the small, guilty kind. The kind that admits defeat without words. I didn't throw anything, didn't scream, didn't even finish the argument. I just walked to the closet, took my coat, and said the last thing I'd ever say to her without anger in my voice. "Don't worry, you'll get everything you wanted, just not the way you thought." Then I left. Outside, the air felt colder, sharper, cleaner, like winter had finally arrived inside my chest. The streetlights blurred through the tears I didn't wipe away. That's when I realized I didn't want to destroy her. I wanted her to understand, and understanding takes time. So I'd give her that. All the time in the world. You can't steal from someone who's already lost everything, I tell the camera. But you can teach them what it feels like. It's strange how quickly pain becomes purpose when you stop pretending to be the good guy. That morning, I woke up before dawn. The house still asleep, her scent still clinging to the sheets like guilt. I stared at the ceiling, the cracks, the slow rotation of the fan, and thought, she thinks she's winning. That thought, it lit something. A small, dark spark. By the time the sun crawled through the blinds, I wasn't the same man who stood silent in the doorway that night. I was something else, quieter, colder. A shadow learning how to move without being seen. I'm fine, I told her at breakfast, my voice steady, my smile soft. She looked up, searching my face for signs of ruin. Didn't find any. She kissed my cheek, said something about meetings, deadlines, errands. I nodded, poured her coffee. My hands didn't shake this time. She thought she'd broken me. She didn't realize she'd just rebuilt me into someone sharper. That's when the game began. I started small. Digital ghosts, invisible edits, quiet clicks in the dark. Her phone left on the counter became a confession booth. I learned how to read between timestamps, between the dots that said typing, and the ones that vanished too quickly. At work, I smiled through meetings, nodded through jokes, but every spare second was hers. Her trail, her secrets, her digital fingerprints, and God, the details. The perfume charges that didn't match the dates. The Uber receipts from hotels she never mentioned. The photos, little fragments of a life I wasn't invited to. I didn't rage, not anymore. Rage is noisy, predictable. No, I was deliberate. Every move logged, every lie folded neatly into a file named proof. You'd think revenge would make me feel powerful, but it didn't. Not at first. It made me hollow. Every night, after she tucked our daughter in, I'd stand in the hallway and listen to her hum. The same lullaby she used to sing for me. Her voice was warm, but I knew the warmth wasn't real. Sometimes Lily would ask, "Daddy, are you sad?" And I'd smile, stroke her hair, whisper, "No, sweetheart, just thinking." But inside, I was building, calculating, becoming something that even I didn't fully understand. I started keeping records, quiet ones, her bank transfers. A new account opened under a name I didn't recognize. She was moving money. She thought she was clever. She had no idea how quietly I could erase her little empire with a few keystrokes. I remember one night, sitting in my car outside that same hotel, the one with the glass doors that reflected nothing but rain. I wasn't there to watch her this time. I was there to think. The windshield wipers moved like a metronome, steady and merciless. What was I waiting for? A sign, a confession, a reason not to become what she made me? The answer came in silence. And silence, I've learned, is just betrayal holding its breath. So I stopped waiting for mercy and started preparing for truth. I moved accounts, reset passwords, rerouted insurance, subtle changes, small enough not to notice, big enough to matter later. Every document had a twin version she didn't know existed. Every smile became a mask I wore just for her. By the end of the week, I knew more about her than I ever did when we were happy. It wasn't love anymore. It was anatomy. I was dissecting her, piece by piece, until only the truth remained. And when I looked in the mirror one night, after she'd gone to bed, her fake laughter fading behind the door, I didn't see a victim anymore. I saw a man rehearsing control. The kind of control you can't fake. The kind that looks calm because it's already decided what comes next. I tell you this, not with pride, but with precision. Because that's the secret no one wants to admit. You can survive heartbreak, but you can't survive it unchanged. I turned off the bathroom light, stood beside her in the reflection, her back to me, brushing her hair, unaware. For a second, our eyes met in the mirror. Hers smiled. Mine didn't. And in that silence, I whispered, "Just for the audience. Just for you. She taught me deceit by example. I just learned faster." That was the night I stopped hurting and started watching. The house became a stage. Every light switch, every closed door, every glance, choreography. I knew her patterns now. The late-night calls, the excuses about work trips, the phone held too close when she laughed. I memorized them the way a dying man memorizes his last breath. She didn't notice the small things. She never did. The way I lingered by her laptop, the quiet clicks when she left the room, the new lock I installed on my office door. She thought I was protecting our privacy. She didn't know I was protecting the evidence. Each night, I'd review what I'd gathered, like a detective cross-examining his own heart. The texts, the hidden accounts, the receipts for jewelry I never saw her wear. It should have made me angry. It didn't. It made me focused, because anger is messy. Revenge isn't. Still, the guilt came, slow and heavy, like fog rolling in from the sea. It came every night when I tucked Lily in. She'd curl into my chest, small and trusting, her breath warm against my shirt. "Daddy," she'd whisper, "is Mommy still mad at you?" And I'd freeze. Because how do you explain to a child that the war isn't outside the house? It's inside the walls? So I'd just smile and say, "No, sweetheart, everything's fine." Fine. That word became my lie. Neat, harmless, believable. But every time I said it, I felt something in me rot. I started keeping a journal, not for her, but for me. Dates, times, thoughts I couldn't say aloud. She's lying again. She smiled when she said she missed me. Her scent changed. New perfume. Don't lose control. The last one I wrote twice. Control. That was my God now. Some nights, I'd sit in the kitchen long after she'd gone to bed, the clock ticking too loud, the fridge humming like a secret. I'd pour myself a drink, just one, always just one, and stare at the flickering family photo on the fridge door. The three of us at the beach, her hair blowing in the wind, my arm around her, Lily laughing. The moment looked so honest. It was the only lie I wanted to believe. I started to think about her lover. Faceless at first, just a silhouette behind her laughter. But then, slowly, the shape began to form. The restaurant bills, the business trips that matched his. A man named Mark. She said the name once at dinner, slipped it between sentences. I pretended not to notice, but I did. Every letter of it burned. After that, I became methodical. I traced her calls. I followed her GPS pings. I watched the map draw a story she didn't know she was telling. Every time the line stopped at that same hotel, I felt my heart go quieter. Not faster, quieter. You'd think discovery brings noise, shouting, breaking, pleading. No. True discovery is silence. It's the moment you realize the person you love most has already left, and you just didn't hear the door close. But there were still moments that almost broke me, like the night she fell asleep on the couch, phone in hand, and I picked it up. Her screen lit up. Messages. I miss you. Next week can't come soon enough. I stared until my eyes burned. I wanted to throw it, smash it, wake her up and make her see. But I didn't. Instead, I put it down gently on the table, kissed her forehead, and whispered, "Sleep well." Thus, she didn't even stir. That's the thing about betrayal. It's rarely loud. It's quiet. It's practiced. It learns your routines. And I learned hers. I told myself this wasn't cruelty. It was balance. If she could keep secrets, so could I. If she could take from me, I could take back what was mine. But sometimes I'd catch my reflection in the window, eyes sunken, jaw clenched, and wonder, was I still a husband? Or had I become her mirror? The difference, I think, is motive. She lied for pleasure. I lied for justice. At least that's what I told myself. I remember one morning, she came up behind me, wrapped her arms around my waist. "You've been distant lately," she whispered. I turned, smiled, touched her cheek. "Just tired," I said. And for a second, just one, I saw something flicker in her eyes. Guilt, fear, maybe recognition. Then it was gone. She walked away, humming. And I stood there, staring at the empty space she left behind, whispering under my breath, "Let her have her freedom. It makes the fall look higher." By then, the lines were drawn, the files complete, the mask perfectly in place, and the only thing left was patience. There's a kind of silence that doesn't belong in a marriage. It's not peace, it's something colder, like the pause before a storm decides where to land. That's what our house had become, a storm in waiting. She'd walk through the rooms, humming, phone in hand, pretending she didn't feel my eyes on her. I'd pretend not to see her texts, not to notice how her laughter came too easy now, too bright. Every smile was a mask, every dinner a performance, and I played my part beautifully. That night, I remember the smell first, her perfume, the same one she wore when we first met. Jasmine and honey. She was getting ready to go out again, said it was a girls' night. She didn't even flinch when she lied anymore. Maybe she thought I was too broken to notice. Maybe she wanted me to. I stood by the mirror as she fixed her hair. Our reflections almost touched. Two strangers rehearsing a script that used to mean something. "You look beautiful," I said. She smiled. "Thanks. Don't wait up." She said it so easily, like the words had no weight. When the door closed, the air shifted. The house exhaled. I picked up my phone, opened the tracker app, and watched the small blue dot move across the city. Steady, predictable, right to the hotel. I followed, calm. No anger, no shaking hands, just stillness. That's what revenge really feels like. Not fire, but ice. Outside, the rain had started again, soft and steady, like the night it all began. When I parked across the street, the scene looked almost familiar. Same hotel. Same lobby lights spilling gold across wet pavement. She walked in, her heels clicking like a metronome counting down the seconds of our life together. Then he appeared, tall, confident, the kind of man who never learned to hesitate. She smiled when she saw him, that old, unguarded smile that used to belong to me. And something in me broke, not with sound, but with certainty. She was gone. She'd been gone for a long time. I was the only one still pretending. I watched them walk inside, hand in hand. I could have stormed in, could have shouted, exposed them, made it cinematic. But no, that would have been mercy. Instead, I took a photo. One clean shot through the rain-streaked windshield, proof. Quiet and perfect. When I got home, the house felt hollow, like a museum of a marriage. I sat at the dining table where Lily's crayons still lay scattered. Purple, blue, red. She'd drawn a picture that morning. 3 stick figures holding hands under a yellow sun. She still believed in us. God, that hurt the most. I looked around the room, at the life I'd built, the one she'd poisoned. And I made a promise, not to destroy her, to unmake her, slowly, carefully, the way she did to me. I moved money first, quietly, cleanly. Accounts she didn't know I still controlled. Then the recordings, the calls, the messages, the proof she thought she'd buried in secrecy. All neatly saved, labeled, timed. Justice, one folder at a time. When she came home past midnight, she didn't see the difference. She kissed my cheek like nothing had changed. "Did you stay up?" she asked softly. "Couldn't sleep," I said. It wasn't a lie. I watched her move around the kitchen, her silhouette framed by the dim light. I studied her like an artist studies his final subject, with patience, precision, detachment. She turned, caught me staring. "What?" she laughed. "You're acting weird lately." I smiled. "Just thinking." "About what?" I let the silence stretch, just long enough for her to feel it. Then I said, "About how easy it is to forget someone's watching." She froze for half a heartbeat, a blink, then laughed again, too high, too forced. I smiled wider, took her hand, kissed her knuckles. "Go get some sleep," I whispered, and she did. I stayed up until dawn, the glow of my laptop flickering across my face. The documents were ready, the account secured, the game nearly over. All that remained was time. When the first light slipped through the blinds, I went to Lily's room. She was still asleep, tangled in her blankets, clutching her stuffed rabbit. I sat beside her, brushed the hair from her forehead. She stirred and mumbled, "Daddy?" "I'm here," I said. She smiled, half awake. "Promise you'll stay?" The question hit harder than any betrayal, because the truth was, I didn't know what stay meant anymore. I kissed her cheek. "Always," I lied. Downstairs, the house was still. The world outside was waking, but inside, everything had already ended. I poured myself coffee, black and bitter, and stood by the window, watching the light crawl across the floor. Behind me, she slept peacefully in the room upstairs, unaware that the ground beneath her was already cracking. I whispered to the empty kitchen, "She took my love for granted. Now I'll take her lies apart." And for the first time in weeks, I smiled, because this wasn't heartbreak anymore. This was art. The night I chose to end it, everything was perfect. That's the part that still haunts me. The table was set, linen smooth as skin, candles flickering low like guilty eyes. Her favorite, wine breathed quietly between us, the same one we opened on anniversaries. To her, it was romance. To me, it was an autopsy. She came down the stairs in that soft blue dress, the one I used to love because it made her look like the woman I'd first fallen for. I almost wanted to stop her, to keep the illusion alive just a little longer. But lies, when left to breathe, grow teeth. "Dinner?" She smiled, that gentle, practiced smile. "What's the occasion?" "Us," I said. "Just us. Simple, quiet, controlled. The kind of lie even the truth can hide behind." We ate, slowly, talking about nothing. Her day, my work, Lily's drawings on the fridge. The sound of cutlery filled the pauses where love used to live. Every so often, she'd reach for her glass, and I'd watch her hand. The same hand that once trembled when she said she loved me. Now steady, certain, too certain. Halfway through, she laughed at something trivial, a sound that once anchored me. Now, it only reminded me of him. That's when I decided it was time. I reached for the envelope beneath my chair, thick with proof. Paper and pixels. The anatomy of betrayal. "Before dessert," I said softly, "I think there's something you should see." Her laughter faltered, then vanished. "What is this?" I slid the envelope across the table. It brushed against her wine glass, left a faint streak of red. Funny how even the details conspire when the truth comes out. She opened it, slowly, carefully, like she already knew. The first photo caught the candlelight, her hand in his, walking into that same hotel. Another, her leaning in, smiling. Unaware the lens saw everything. Then the messages, printed, highlighted, time-stamped. Words meant for someone else. I watched her face change. Not shock, not guilt, recognition. Like she was meeting herself for the first time and didn't like who she saw. "Say something," I whispered. Her lips parted. No sound, just the flicker of denial trying to find oxygen. "This isn't real?" I finished for her. "Wrong number? Wrong man? Wrong you?" The silence stretched until it felt heavy enough to break the air itself. She blinked once, twice, and then it happened. The collapse. The trembling hand, the shallow breath, the face folding into something that looked like regret but came too late to matter. From upstairs, Lily's laughter echoed. Soft, bright, innocent. That sound cut through me like nothing else could. I leaned forward. "Did you ever think of her when you lied to me?" Her eyes lifted, wet, lost. She didn't answer. That's when the calm ended. You'd think anger comes with shouting. It doesn't. Sometimes it's just a heartbeat you can hear too loud in your ears. A pulse that keeps asking why, long after the answer stops mattering. "I wanted to tell you," she finally whispered. "I didn't know how." I laughed. Not loud, not cruel, just tired. People don't accidentally fall into hotel rooms, Claire. Her name, I hadn't said it like that in months. It tasted different now. Final. She reached across the table, her voice breaking. "Please, David, don't do this in front of Lily. We can fix it." "Fix it?" I said, almost gently. "You broke something that doesn't get fixed." I slid another paper across the table. Bank statements this time, her name next to his, plans for a future that didn't include me. Her hand went still. The candles flickered as if they, too, were listening. "I've already frozen the accounts," I told her. "Filed papers. Talked to lawyers." Each sentence was a cut, deliberate and measured. "Everything you built on deceit, gone." She shook her head, tears slipping past her makeup. "You can't." I already did. For a long moment we just sat there. Her world collapsing in slow motion, mine finally still. I expected satisfaction. That cinematic rush of victory you see in movies. But what I felt was emptiness. Cold. Clean. Absolute. She whispered, "I loved you, you know." And I said, "Then why did you choose to destroy me?" Her wedding ring caught the candlelight as she tried to remove it. Her fingers trembled, slippery with tears. It fell from her hand, spinning once, twice, then hit the table with a soft, metallic sigh. That sound will never leave me. I looked at her. the woman who'd been my home, my reason, and realized something cruelly simple. You can't betray someone who's already stopped believing in you. You didn't just lose me, I said quietly. Her eyes lifted, desperate, hollow. You lost the man who would have forgiven you. She stayed seated long after I stood up. The candles burned down to nothing, dripping wax like slow tears. Her dress shimmered faintly in the dying light. A ghost of the woman I used to love. Upstairs, Lily stirred, calling out softly, "Daddy?" I turned, my throat tight. "Go back to sleep, sweetheart." Her door creaked shut. When I faced Claire again, she was staring at the photos, scattered, ruined, wet with wine and tears. She whispered, "What happens now?" I thought about it, really thought about it. "Now," I said, "now you live with it. No shouting, no vengeance, just truth. That's the cruelest punishment of all. Letting them live with what they've done." As I walked out, the air felt lighter. Outside, the night was cool, clean, washed in moonlight. I could still hear the echo of that ring against the wood. Every betrayal deserves a sound. That one was hers. I lit a cigarette, my first in years, and let the smoke curl into the dark. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't angry. Just done. Closure isn't peace, I whispered to no one. It's just the part where you stop bleeding. The house behind me stood still, silent. Over. The house was quieter than I'd ever heard it. Not the kind of quiet that soothes. The kind that hums under your skin, like the silence after a gunshot. Her things were gone. Drawers half empty, closet doors left ajar. The faint ghost of her perfume still hung in the air, sweet and sharp, clinging to everything she touched. I stood in the doorway of our bedroom, my bedroom now, and stared at the impression her body used to leave in the sheets. It was still there, faint but visible, like memory refusing to fade. For a moment I almost called her name, out of habit, out of muscle memory. But the name caught in my throat, heavy as the lies she left behind. Downstairs, the refrigerator hummed, the clock ticked, the house breathed. I didn't. Revenge doesn't end with fireworks. It ends with the soft thud of a closing door and a kind of silence that makes you question what winning really means. I told myself I'd done the right thing, that justice was finally served, that truth had finally balanced the scale. But as I walked through the empty hallway, passing the photos on the wall, her smile beside mine, our daughter's hands clutching our fingers, all I could feel was absence. Not relief, not peace, just absence. Lily's little footsteps echoed behind me. "Daddy?" she whispered. I turned, forcing a smile. "Hey, baby." "Couldn't sleep?" She shook her head, clutching her stuffed bear. Her eyes, her mother's eyes, blinked up at me, full of questions she didn't know how to ask. "Where's Mommy?" I froze. The question landed like a punch I didn't see coming. How do you explain betrayal to a child who still believes love fixes everything? I sat on the stairs beside her, my voice low, steady. "She made choices, sweetheart. Bad choices." I nodded slowly. "Yeah, bad ones." She seemed to think about that for a moment. Then she leaned her head on my arm. "Will she come back?" My throat tightened. I stared ahead, into the darkened living room. "I don't know," I said. "But we'll be okay." Her small hand found mine, warm, trusting. That simple touch, pure, undeserved, nearly broke me. Because in that moment, I realized I'd taken something from her too. Not just a mother, but the illusion that love was safe. When she finally drifted off to sleep in my lap, I just sat there, still, breathing shallowly. The weight of what I'd done pressing down on my chest. Revenge had given me clarity, sure, but it had stolen something too, something I couldn't name yet. I looked around the house, the home I'd built with my hands, my time, my faith, and for the first time, It didn't feel like mine. It felt like a stage after the actors have gone home. Just props, just echoes. And I thought, maybe I went too far. Maybe I became the very thing I swore I'd never be. Someone who hurts just to prove they still can. The rain started then, tapping softly against the window pane, the same way it did the night I found her. The same rhythm, the same cold. I poured myself a drink. The burn in my throat was the first real feeling I'd had in days. I stared out the window, watching the world blur through the rain. Maybe I was never her victim, I whispered. Maybe I was just her mirror. The whiskey glass trembled slightly in my hand. I didn't know if it was guilt or grief. Maybe both. I turned off the light and let the darkness do what it does best. Hide what it can't fix. Morning came slow, reluctant, the kind of dawn that feels ashamed to shine. The house looked different in daylight, exposed, honest. Every surface that once shimmered now looked ordinary, stripped of meaning. Her coffee mug was still on the counter, lipstick faintly smudged on the rim, the same shade she wore the night I told her I knew. I didn't throw it away. I couldn't. Not yet. It sat there like a relic of some extinct version of us. The papers were already signed, the accounts frozen. The lawyer said I'd handled it efficiently. I almost laughed. Efficiently, as if betrayal were a business transaction. As if trust could be itemized, liquidated, and filed away neatly in a manila envelope. I remember walking into her closet that morning, half-empty shelves, missing hangers, the faint scent of her perfume still floating like a ghost that refused to leave. I trailed my fingers along the wooden frame, feeling the absence like a bruise. This wasn't triumph. This was surgery. And I'd cut too deep. The phone buzzed. Her number, unknown now, wiped clean from my contacts, but my body still recognized it before my mind did. I didn't answer. She didn't call again. That silence spoke louder than anything she could have said. I went to the window again. The rain had stopped, leaving behind a sky the color of steel. Outside, the garden she used to love was overgrown. Wild, untended, honest. Maybe that's what truth looks like when you stop pruning it to please people. Maybe I went too far, I said aloud. My reflection in the glass didn't argue. For a moment I saw her standing beside me. Not the woman who lied, but the one I first fell in love with. Her laugh, her warmth, the way she once looked at me like I was her world. And I wondered, was it ever real? Or did I just believe so hard that it became real for both of us? Guilt comes in strange waves. It doesn't crash all at once. It trickles in, quiet, patient, until it fills every corner of you. I told myself she deserved it, that she'd broken something sacred. But somewhere beneath that cold certainty, something softer stirred. I missed her. Not her lies, not her betrayal, but the version of her that existed before it all went wrong. The laughter in the kitchen, the shared glances, the small, stupid rituals, like arguing over who made better coffee or who forgot to close the fridge door. You don't realize how those moments hold your life together until they're gone. Lily's laughter drifted from the living room, the kind that makes time stop. She was watching cartoons, her voice echoing through the empty space like sunlight cutting through fog. That sound saved me, because it reminded me there was still something worth protecting, something pure. I walked over, sat beside her. She leaned into me, her eyes still puffy from sleep, her curls wild. "Daddy, are you okay?" "Yeah, baby," I said, managing a small smile. "I'm just thinking about Mommy?" Her words hit like a needle under the skin. Sharp, small, lingering. "Yeah," I said. "About Mommy." She nodded, thoughtful in that innocent way children have when they don't understand but feel everything. Then she hugged me, tight. And for the first time, I didn't think about revenge, or loss, or justice. Just her arms, her heartbeat. her forgiveness. As I held her, I realized something no courtroom or confession could teach me. That love doesn't die with betrayal. It just changes shape. Sometimes it hides, sometimes it waits. Sometimes it learns to survive differently. The storm outside had passed. The air smelled clean again. I whispered, almost to myself, when love turns into betrayal. Mercy feels like weakness. But maybe mercy was never weakness. Maybe it was what came after survival. The quiet strength to live without needing to destroy. Night again. It always ends at night. The house feels too large now. The kind of silence that hums in your bones, like an old wound remembering pain. I poured a drink, something amber and burning, and watched the ice melt slow. The light from the window caught the glass, fractured it, made it shimmer, like everything that used to shine before it cracked. There was a time I thought revenge would fix me, that the act of taking back control would somehow fill the hollow she left. But it didn't. All it did was prove how easy it is to lose yourself when you're trying to even the score. I sat down in her old chair, the one by the window she used to read in. The cushions still held her shape. My fingers traced the worn fabric, and for a second, it felt like touching memory itself. Strange, isn't it? How someone can disappear, but their absence stays louder than their presence ever did. Sometimes I replay that night. The dinner, the confrontation, the moment her mask finally cracked. I wonder if I could have handled it differently, if I should have walked away sooner. But then I remember her eyes, the way she looked at me like I was a stranger in my own home, and the doubt fades. Maybe I became the thing I feared most, someone who could hurt for control. But maybe control was all I had left. The clock ticks louder now. Every sound feels amplified. The rain starting again outside. Lily's soft breathing from the next room. The echo of my own heartbeat. I look out the window, and it's raining just like that first night, when my daughter whispered the truth that changed everything. Funny how life circles back. How endings sometimes look exactly like beginnings, just quieter. I lift the glass, let the whiskey coat my throat, and whisper, I didn't lose everything. I just learned who I was without her. It's not triumph. Not really. It's acceptance. The kind that doesn't come with peace, just clarity. Because now I see it. The man in the mirror isn't the same one who started this story. His eyes are sharper, his smile thinner. But he's awake, and maybe that's enough. I walk down the hallway, peek into Lily's room. She's asleep, tangled in blankets, clutching that stuffed rabbit her mom gave her. For a moment, my chest tightens, the ache of what she's lost, what I've taken. Good night, baby, I whisper. My voice cracks, barely a sound. She stirs, murmurs something I can't make out, then drifts deeper into dreams. I stand there a long time, watching, listening, trying to breathe in the quiet, like it's forgiveness. Somewhere in the distance, thunder rolls again, low, steady, patient, and I realize maybe this is what justice really looks like. Not fire, not vengeance, just living with what's left. The camera pulls back, slow, deliberate, catching the faint reflection of me in the window. A man alone, but not broken, just changed. The rain softens, the lights fade, Lily's laughter, faint, ghost-like, plays over the sound of rain. A memory or a promise, I can't tell which. I close my eyes and whisper one last thing. Not for her, not for the world, but for me. Love doesn't die. It just learns to live without you.